out there, YouTube land.
Welcome back.
Today we're talking about another of our favorite vampire films.
30 Days of Night. And we actually get into vampires being evil.
Yes. I don't think there's really another vampire film that shows evil vampires as predator as well as this film.
Not as well as this film, no. I know there are some, and you guys can comment below on that too, but this one really is the epitome of the vampire as the monster.
And, for me, the interesting part is that it's based on a graphic novel instead of, a regular long feature novel or, another film or anything. This film was based on a graphic novel.
Yes.
So the source material is relatively short.
Mm-hmm.
But what's there is, action-packed from start to finish. So you have actually kind of like a combination between action and horror in this film.
And it's enough that it allowed, I think, the writers to kind of go in and say, okay, let me hash this out just a little bit more and add a little bit more of my imagination, and we get 30 Days of Night.
Now, the one thing, I think everybody's used to this, that I have all these sticking points with all these films. I pick things apart. So my thing with this film is there's a scene where the master vampire plays a record with his claw.
Yes.
My issue being is that those of us who remember vinyl or have messed with vinyl, the needle in order to play a vinyl record is very, 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 very thin.
Mm-hmm.
His claw is clearly too blunt and thick in order to play a record.
Yeah. That
was my, oh, come on! Because in the graphic novel, the claw's, actually drawn out to be super pointed.
It's needle-like
so
then,
it was, believable. But in the film, they didn't make the makeup pointy enough in order to play a record.
Yeah.
So that drew me out of the whole thing, and I was like, oh, come on! But the rest of the film is fun in that, you have these vampires with essentially a mouthful of shark-like teeth.
Yeah.
And they rip you to shreds.
Which is, if you think about it, you get into myth and legend, you have kind of that thought process in your mind of what is a scary vampire, and it has really, pointed teeth, sharp teeth, and, well, they deliver.
Yeah, and, it also makes a lot more sense, truthfully.
It does.
Because if you have a being that is there to feast on blood, it makes more sense to have a mouth full of teeth to get a lot of blood fast than it does to have two pointy teeth and just suck them through these little tiny holes that would take a while.
Two tiny holes, and, unless you elongate your teeth, you're not going to get too far into a blood source. Unless you're just wanting to keep that blood source around for a while.
True, that's a whole different thing. But, the fact that, these vampires are very predatory, they're very animalistic. It made it a lot more based in reality.
Based in reality, and you're right, the vampires themselves don't really behave so much as a human would, and what you see in other movies where you have human-based vampires, they behave more like the predator.
And you can see extensively where they have lost their humanity.
Yes, which that is one of the good points of this movie.
It is.
Because a lot of times I think movies have this whole swing and a miss with the vampire because they made them too human, too attached to the humanity. In this one, you kind of get I used to, resemble a human, but now I've taken that extra step.
And the other thing that's kind of interesting is the whole idea that a vampire is to look human-like in order to be able to get in close to the human in order to feed. Whereas these vampires, while they still look mostly human, they don't actually even use that. They just come in and invade a town and obliterate it. They
kind of walk in like a badass.
Yeah.
And say, this is mine, you are my people, you are my food, and goodbye.
Yeah. And honestly, that in of itself is also kind of like a creepy thing to think about, because if you think of the number of abandoned towns
yes,
all over the world, And so you get into okay, how did this town become abandoned?
I think about when I was in Colorado, because we went through a ghost town. Man, that would be a good set for a book or something. But yeah, think about that a little while.
So, you can, those of us who like to fantasize instead of like a logical explanation, like, okay, the mine shut down, or the plant that made whatever it is shut down. No, vampires came in there and they ate everybody. That's why the town's abandoned.
They ate everybody, and somehow they ended up not getting, to everyone else.
Yeah, or crispy crittered in the
summer.
Yeah,
that ash pile over there?
Yeah.
That's vampire.
Yeah. So, the cool thing about this is, Eben, the main character, chooses to become a vampire to save his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. And then chooses to die so he's not a danger to anyone else. And to be able to go through that thought process...
Yes.
...is interesting. And he could even feel himself losing his humanity, which is commented on in the film. And I really liked how they explored all that.
Yes. Yeah, just how they went about it was believable. Mm-hmm. That's something that really drives home with this movie, is that you see a logic to it. You see that it's minus the claw.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logical, believable points to this movie. And that really lends to the creep factor, because then your mind works.
The fact that Barrow, Alaska does go through this period of darkness every year, kudos to the author of the graphic novel for using an actual, physical fact and then saying, oh, that's the perfect place for vampires.
Can you imagine the poor people of Alaska?
I wonder how many people have visited Barrow just because it was the basis for 30 Days of Night.
I don't know.
That would be a good question. If anyone's from Alaska, how many people have gone to Barrow to find out, about the vampires? Yeah. Because I'm curious now.
Because we would do something like that. Let's face it.
We should totally, after the world's back on, we should make a road trip.
Yeah, we should.
That'd be fun. I've never been to Alaska.
I haven't either.
So, okay, sometime Tabby and I are going to Alaska to go to Barrow.
Just because.
Yeah.
But can you seriously though? Can you imagine? Sitting down watching this movie and you're sitting there in Alaska going, "Crap."
Or the people that actually live in Barrow.
Yeah.
I figure when the movie first came out, they were just like, huh?
What? So, anyway, made that town in Alaska quite famous.
Yes. Just like Forks and Twilight.
Yeah.
So, comment down below with where you think would be a perfect location for vampires to pop up at.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe they were already there.
Yeah. For now. So, until next time.
Bye.